Welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations, a series of short and shareable conversation starters for those of us who have or love and support people with a complicated and beautiful brain. Here's your host, Angela Geddes.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Kitchen Table Conversations. I'm your host, Angela, and once again expressing some gratitude for you choosing to spend some time listening in today. So today I want to spend a little bit of time talking about a really important conversation that I do believe needs to come back to our kitchen tables, and that is around the impact of social isolation. So I've known for quite some time that social isolation can be as hard on our bodies and on our hearts as cigarette smoking. So I learned that when I worked at the West Elgin Community Health Center many years ago, when we were talking about the social determinants of health and the need to develop community-based programs and services and allow people to have regular and meaningful interactions with people. So now I'm very happy to see that our medical field is recognizing the importance of our social networks and are actually prescribing, doing a thing called social prescribing, rather than looking first at medicine or more of the traditional medical model. So we're now recognizing that there are things that all of us can do to help ourselves feel better and to nurture our overall wellness and improve our mental health. So things like spending time with other people, spending time, increasing our heart rate a few times a week, for example, can be as beneficial to our mental health as for mild or moderate depression and anxiety, for example, can be as helpful as some medications. So again, check with your doctor around this, because I'm certainly not here to tell anybody how to treat their mental health conditions. But what I am here to say is that sometimes we need to be creative and we need to look at what the evidence is telling us around, more simple and traditional things that we can do to improve our outcomes, not necessarily fix anything, but can improve our outcomes. So there's a term called nature bathing, or forest bathing, I think. And so that is simply what we used to do, and, walking in the forest and spending time grounding ourselves, touching and having bare feet on the ground and grounding ourselves literally and figuratively, to make those really important connections and to feel good. Spending time gardening, spending time with beautiful flowers. I often say that when I retire, I think I would love to work in a nursery. But whatever, again, makes you happy. But we are realizing, and I think COVID has made it very clear to us, that there's some really negative outcomes. And I'm not sure that we're really completely aware yet of what all is taken place and how long it's going to take some of us to heal from this. So I think I've mentioned this in earlier podcasts, that I have a number of teacher friends that are indicating that the behaviors that they're seeing in school are way more intensified than what they had been in previous years. And I'm now reading an article from Psychology Today that indicates that, the need for social interactions is as fundamental as our need for proper nutrition and adequate sleep. Social isolation actually causes decreased white matter in brain regions critical for thinking and emotional control. And connectivity changes between the amygdala and the frontal lobes are associated with increased behavioral problems. So there's literally, what we're finding is that there's, interference in the way that our brains should be developing and functioning as a result of social isolation and less frequent direct interactions with other people, where we learn from and we learn to communicate and we learn how to negotiate and to share and, all those things that we say we learned while we attended kindergarten, right? So I think that we're just, again, we're not sure of the long-term impacts of COVID, but we are learning that people need people. And obviously, as a social worker, I work with a number of people who are feeling extra specially isolated, or the sense that they don't belong, or they sense that there's some stigma attached to their conditions. And caregivers feel really stigmatized because they're often blamed and shamed for the presenting issues that are so intense that their children are experiencing. And, there's just an awful lot of pressure put on parents to have all the answers and to come and solve the problems. And I hear it on a regular basis. I hear parents really struggling with the system, with the school system, for example, getting frequent phone calls to say, come and help your kid, or your kid's not welcome here at school anymore. There's been some, aggression on the schoolyard, or there's been some property damage in the classroom, and truly some difficult behaviors that teachers are not prepared to deal with alone with their other 30 kids. So there's definitely issues here that need to be addressed. But how can we guarantee an educational opportunity for all of our kids, particularly here in Ontario, and yet have the school call parents who are at work to come and solve some of the problems? It was interesting because I had a person who works with seniors who threw it back at the school staff and said, now, what would you do if your mother was aggressive and the nursing home called you to say you have to come and get her? The bottom line is, when people go to a nursing home, we expect the staff members to be able to manage tricky behaviors and emotional dysregulation and inconsistent performance and memory loss. Why are we not better prepared within our school systems to deal with neurodivergence and with some of the real legitimate brain-based conditions that individuals are experiencing? So again, just wanted to spend some time talking about the importance of belonging, the importance of checking our own biases, and making sure that we do understand that it takes a community to raise a child. And most of us are doing the very best we can given what we have available to us. In fact, I would say all of us are doing the very best we can, given what we know, given the kinds of supports that we've received or that we are receiving, given the guidance and our own histories. They're not always ideal. And we only know what we know. And so rather than blaming and shaming or making people feel terrible for the way that their kids are behaving, maybe more of us need a hug, or more of us need a call or a check-in to say, how are you doing? And how can we be helpful, and what do you need from us right now? And again, Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry wrote an amazing book that is called What Happened to You. So if we look at that perspective rather than what's wrong with you, I think that's game changing. And I do believe that we would all do better if we took that approach. So this is the conversation. It's pretty important, pretty light, pretty doable, I think, but a really important conversation to bring home to our own kitchen tables, because people do need people. And yes, we are all different, and some of us prefer to have a smaller circle. Some of us prefer to have a huge circle. Everybody's different, but the bottom line is, I think, the evidence is clear that we do better when we're surrounded by people who make us feel like we're important, and that we belong, and that we're appreciated, and that people like us, and that what we contribute is meaningful. And so we at our center in St. Thomas, Ontario, and certainly through all of our virtual work, we see on a regular basis how important it is for people to be understood. And again, as a social worker and as a therapist, as a helper, I think that the most important gift that I can provide, or our team can provide other people, is that sense that they are understood and that they're okay and that they belong with us, and that we're going to walk alongside them and, creatively address the needs that they are presented with. So again, we do offer many programs and services. We offer support groups for caregivers. We offer a Making Connections group for youth and young adults who have complex mental health and sometimes some learning difficulties, or are feeling, quite socially isolated, or have fewer places where they feel at ease. So we do have a group that's running every other Wednesday. So I encourage you to check out our website and see if that might be helpful to you. And yes, if you know of anybody who, feels that maybe they're not well understood or struggling either themselves or as a caregiver, feel free to check out our website and see whether or not we might be helpful. With many thanks, Angela.